Welcome to These Are the Days of Our podcast, where we chat about the celebrated and uncelebrated days of the year. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Jen, and today we're talking about old stuff, which is celebrated on March the 2nd.
So, Jen, what's your favorite old thing?
Well, we're both vagabonds, so I was thinking about old things in my life, and I was on a Zoom call with my parents today, and they have so kindly reminded me that their house is full of my old stuff, and they're hoping one day I will become an adult enough to have a place of my own to take all of my favorite old stuff that's just squirreled away in their house away. So I would say all of my favorite old stuff is just in my parents' house.
Interesting. Do you have a particularly favorite old thing?
I actually have a really cool old chest, like pirate's chest thing that I really like, but
Oh,
and
what are they called? That young women used to get.
oh yes, it's my hope chest.
Yeah, hope chest.
And it's filled with all of the hopes and dreams for my future marriage
Perfect.
things.
Perfect.
So someday I hope to be reunited with my hope chest.
Yeah.
What about
Rebranded
you?
as a pirate chest. Rebranded.
Because it's filled with treasures, obviously.
Yeah.
What is your favorite
I'd say
old thing?
I would say my favorite old thing is treasure related, and it is my collection of diamond rings from my grandmother.
Okay, Kim Kardashian.
Okay,
Diamonds,
honestly though, because
diamonds.
like diamonds, why an old diamond is literally like the best thing that can be inherited. Like a really cool Edwardian diamond ring. I mean, you can't go wrong. And so, of course, that's going to be my favorite thing,
I
you know?
really can't argue with that. And I've seen your vintage, cool grandma rings and filled with envy.
Filled with envy. I think something to talk about when you talk about old stuff is like the idea of like thrifting and how that came about. It was saying that became popular in Elizabethan England when desirable upper class clothing could be purchased one of the hundreds of London's resale shop. And then because fashion changed so quickly and you didn't have to purchase tailor-made garments then. So the rising middle class could afford to buy the secondhand garments. And I do think for a long time, it has always been like a religious, like nonprofit charity organizations who have invented that part of the business sector to sell second hand or old stuff to lower or middle class people to like make money for their charity. And then but I think in like recent years, maybe with the rise of eBay, I'd say like I think it's kind of become more cool to like thrift. And like you think of Macklemore's song, I saw that came out in like 9 years ago, and you know you could get some cool vintage finds and really interesting, unique, non-based.
I'm gonna take your grandpa style. I'm gonna take your grandpa
Yes.
style.
Yes,
No.
and, like, some unique, like, not basic, interesting furniture or clothing, and so I think, like, the idea towards old stuff has shifted, and then even, like we said, further shifted in this pandemic because now it's like, yeah, don't get I was like, I as you know, felt like I could be a serious minimalist, especially when we gave up all our stuff to go traveling. And now I'm just like, no, you know what? Maybe I want all of the things. Maybe I do.
Yeah, there's this comfort with having your things around you, especially when there's so little comfort to be had in the world right now. It's just, I want to feel that comfort from having my things. And some of the things that give me the most joy are these old things that are interesting or have a bit of a quirk or a meaning to them. But one of the other things I was thinking about was, what do we mean by old? Because lately, with the resurgence of cool vintage Y2K street style, has made me feel like
I don't know if that.
when I think of vintage,
I think
I
that
think,
just makes us
the
old. I don't think that.
60s.
I don't think it actually has
Yeah.
anything to
So
do with oldness. I think it makes us old, which is problematic.
so we are now old
Yeah.
things. So maybe you're one of my things then.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're older than me, but sure. You could be my old thing. And then also Andrew can be my old thing because look how old that man is.
Do we want to talk about like super old
Yeah, I
things?
found a cool list of like famous 16 oldest surviving examples of everyday things from Bored Panda. And there was like probably one of the coolest ones, and maybe because we're Canadian, it was like the oldest sunglasses were discovered on Baffin Island, and they were like snow goggles, and they look like they're made of bone, and they have little slits where the eyes are, and it would help um, with the sun's glare reflecting from the snow, which
Was
obviously
it Daft Punk that had the slitty sunglasses?
who just broke up, devastating.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like very, very early Daft Punk glasses found in Baffin Island.
Yeah, but
That's cool.
cooler. Yeah.
And made out of bones.
Yes. Yes. Um, the oldest flushing toilet is 2,000 years old from an ancient city in Turkey where they had running water below the seats that carried the waste away to like a nearby river. We're just like,
Doesn't that just
how
sound like
impressive.
they like put a toilet over top of a river that you just like that is questionably a flushing toilet.
I know, but I still think like to know to throw your waste away is probably pretty smart as opposed to like medieval England, which just threw it from their chamber pots into the streets and then wondered
So
why they
gross.
had the plague.
Yes.
Yeah. And then another one is the oldest brazier, 500 years old. And it looks like a little worse for wear, but it looks a lot like what a modern day bra would look like without the underwire. And it says early historical descriptions for breast bags do exist, but they had
Wow.
never been seen until this one that was like from roughly 1390 to 1485 in Austria. Like,
But it also tells us about the pace of innovation in women's bras,
yeah,
because if it looks approximately the same as what we're currently wearing, and also most people feel the bra is one of the most uncomfortable things in women's wear, like we probably could innovate in this field and maybe move away from the 1300s in terms of bra design.
yeah, probably.
It might be
Um,
time. It might be time.
It might be time. The last notable exception is the oldest chewing gum, which I was like,
Oh,
very impressive for figuring out that's chewing gum because it looks like a rock. So, how, like, archaeologists, anthropologists, how they discovered that, so good. And it says, this chewing gum from Finland was last chewed 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago! And it consisted of birch bark and was most likely used to heal mouth infection or to use
hmm.
as glue. And I was like, well, one is chewing gum, and definitely one glue is not chewing gum. So questionable source, but
Wow.
yeah.
Chewing gum does still stay in our stomachs forever, which
I
is
actually think
does not.
that's like a urban legend.
It is an urban legend, but now that we have 5,000-year-old chewing gum, I feel like it reinforces the myth that chewing gum stays around forever, that it
Yeah,
just
it's true.
doesn't go away. Yeah,
And
so it just
it
stays around.
doesn't ever go away ever.
Do you want me to share with you my favorite old thing?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I thought since this podcast is about how we mark time and the special moments in our life, I looked up the oldest calendar, which was found in Scotland in 2004. And it was a lunar calendar, and they dated it to 8,000 years ago, which is a really long time ago. And this is a 28-day calendar, and it's from the Mesolithic hunter-gatherer period. And scientists were so amazed at these calendars, and they're like, oh, wow, these were amazing 28-day calendars. How innovative to track seasonal change and animal migration. But also the team of scientists, which was like Vince and Richard and Clive and, all of the good standard white British men names, didn't think that maybe the 28-day calendar was something that marked menstruation, because the 28-day cycle is a really important one for female fertility. So it's possible, we don't know, but it's possible that the very oldest calendar was actually invented by hunter-gatherer women trying to have some control over their fertility cycles. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool. I like
And
that.
also, it's only
That
episode 2 and I've already got to talk about menstruation once. So, like, guys, buckle in.
Oh dear. Oh dear. This is not where I saw the podcast going. But great. But
Yeah.
but great. So next up, we will have our special guest who's going to talk
Woo!
about her favorite interactions with old things. Hi, Emma. How are you?
Hello. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Thanks for coming on to talk about old stuff. I guess our first question is, what is your favorite old stuff?
Well, my favourite old stuff at the moment is not just one old thing, it's the collecting of many old things, but mere fragments of old things, as I've
Hmm.
So, since the end of 2019, I've held a license which anyone can get from the Port of London, which allows me to walk onto the Thames foreshore, because the Thames in London is tidal, and at certain times of the day, there's not as much water in it as there is the rest of the day, leaving behind a beach. And essentially, the river used to be the dustbin of London. And what that means is if you are down there and you've got good eyesight, you can find little bits of pottery, combs, animal bones, all sorts of things from days of yore, dating back to the Roman times, essentially. Or maybe before. Some people have found
Yeah, that's.
carved.
And so, what's that activity called?
So it's called mudlarking, and it's something. It's not a new thing. People have been mudlarking for centuries, but I would say it's something that's taken off considerably in recent years due to social media. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought? Social media for old things.
Social media for
Okay,
old
final
things.
question. Final question. What, in no particular order, what would be the top 5 favorite things you found while mudlarking?
I may waffle a bit. Well, I would say the top thing I found was an early find, which is it was in 2 halves, essentially. May I just say I've yet to find anything that's in one piece. So
Yes.
two halves make a whole. It was a circular disc, which I thought initially was a drain cover. At a very low tide, it was poking out of the sand, and it turns out that is I'm going to call it a fire plaque. So after the Great Fire of London and many other fires, the concept of insurance, house insurance, was born. And the owners of the many timber houses in London would, if they had insurance against fire, would display these metallic plaques on their building to show which insurance company they were registered with. And back in days of yore, so from the mid 1600s onwards, the fire departments were owned by the insurance companies. So the fire crew would put out the particular the building that was on fire had to be put out by a certain fire.
And they would only put it out if it was insured by that insurance
Apparently
company?
So that's what I've heard, although I've since read a book on the 18th century and they seem to dispute that. They seem to think that for the greater good, they on occasions put out other people's fire, which is for the anecdotal story a little bit, but no, it's very interesting. So that's where the Royal Sun Alliance, if you're British, you'll be familiar with them. They're a long-standing insurance company. That's how they got started. And a lot of these plaques will have pictures of stars or suns, emblems of fire on them. So it's very rusty and it's in two halves, but I'm very proud of that. Other things I found that are quite interesting, this, which is 17th century combed slipware. Again, parts of it. So that was Staffordshire property that looks like it looks like a tart, not a Bakewell tart, like a custard tart, because it's this yellow custardy colour and it has this combed through effect on. So it looks as if someone's just put some molten chocolate onto some custard and then they've done swirls and lines and patterns with it. And it's a mouth-watering find. And just seeing these lovely, colourful things poking up out of the sand is a joy. And I've now got a little bit of, like I said, omen about it. You see, whatever hobby I do, I have to realise it's relaxing and then find a way to make it stressful. So I have to find a bit century combed slipware every time I go to the foreshore. And if I come home,
or it was a bad omen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. London's going to flood if I don't find one each time I go down.
You're saving all the Londoners, Emma. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, but don't. If I go next time and can't find any, I'm just going to tell people to get the sandbags at the ready and don't keep anything on the ground floor of there.
Well, Jen and I will be very happy to be in the know, so that's good. We'll know before.
Thank you very much. You'll be the first people to know. And then most recently, I've got a little bit better at finding. There's a certain type of jar that's either called Bellarmine or Bartman jars, which were extremely popular throughout Europe in the 16th and 17th century. Now, again, these are just pieces of pottery. They have a very distinct, they're very brown and speckly, generally. So it's a nice thing to find. You'll find a lot of it on the foreshore. But the particular parts of these pottery that people enjoy finding are the bottle necks, and on the belly of the bottle, there's a motif as well. So on the bottlenecks, there's normally an old man's face with a beard on it, which is said to be a parody of a cardinal who was knocking about during the 1600s in Germany, who was, of course, anti-Protestant and anti-booze. Germans would swig from these bottles and essentially that had this grotesque mask of this supposed cardinal on it. And then the belly of the bottle just had, it could be anything. It could be a geometric pattern or heraldic shields. Either way, sometimes you can find whole pieces, whole motifs and whole old man faces on the foreshore. I'm yet to find even a complete one of those. I'm only finding parts at the moment, but I found a nose, I found a feather, I found a bit of swirly bit. So I've got the suggestion of patterns, and
I feel like it means you're very close. Like the next time you go, you're gonna get it.
I'm on the cusp.
Yes,
I just want to see a face staring up from me from the sand, and
I know it's going to happen. I can feel it.
Definitely. Thank you very much for the encouragement. And it is surprising because you'd think that it's because it's a popular thing to do now. Every bit of those beaches have been combed, but I found my latest piece of a piece near the steps, near the Tate, where the whole world and his wife will just go on a nice day and sit on the beach there. So it just goes to show it's attention to detail a lot of the time that matters, and just perseverance.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is you'd think a lot of that stuff would be gone, but
yeah,
we'll stay positive and we'll focus on finding the cool bearded man,
pretty
and
things.
Yeah, maybe a Roman coin, some garnets.
I would love to find a coin, garnet.
Yeah.
We're yet to find a garnet. I was given a garnet by someone, kind of these little red stones that are very sought after. They're sort of semi-precious, I think, and certainly very precious in the minds of mudlarkers. Yes. Yeah. And I'm yet to find those. I feel like either I'm a bad mudlark or there's something wrong with my eyesight. I haven't had my eyes tested since I was 19. So I do wonder. Oh, but I'm going to say this is another, I don't know, am I on number 4 of the good things? Pins. We've had a conversation about pins. Finding Tudor, well, not just Tudor, like very old pins, but these little Tudor pins, these copper pins have these knotted tops on them, and they're very pretty, and it's very lovely story to think, oh, somebody might have, a Tudor gentleman was pinning their ruff up before heading across to Southwark to go to Shakespeare's Globe to watch Romeo and Juliet, and when they were crossing the Thames in their little ferry boat, one of the pins fell out and ended up at the bottom of the Thames. And they now turn up in the clayey parts. Clayey? I don't know if that's a word, but there's some. If you find like a little patch of muddy clay, they normally stick to that, and they are small. But once you find one, you'll find 10. It's training the eyes, I feel. And now I've got 20 of them, and I feel I've nailed that. But apparently, I was speaking to somebody down there the other day, and where you find pins, you find coins, which I'm yet to find. I found a modern coin. I found 20p, and I found 5p. So altogether, I've earned £1.25 from my mudlarking endeavours. But
that is pretty
good. Thank you very much.
For like a free hobby. You've made a little money.
Hobby that pays, and I often cycle to the foreshore, so it is basically I earn money, but nothing historical. So not no Roman coins, not even a George V coin or anything like that. So far, considering there must be a lot of money in the Thames, I'm yet to find.
Yeah, there must be.
That. But I don't know what to do for my last one. I have found a couple of little medicine bottles that were near complete, which was exciting. So I don't think they were hugely old. I think I found one from the end of the 19th century, and I think the other one I found was 1914 onwards, perhaps. It looks, because it seemed machine pressed. But it's surprising how things will stay relatively intact. They're a little rough around the edges, but there's still a bottle in essence. And I was very proud of that, because not only did I find it semi-intact on the foreshore, I also didn't smash it on the way home, which, being a very clumsy...
Oh, that is key.
that is key. So, yeah, I was quite pleased with those. And maybe I'll put a couple of flowers in them when it's time to pick those. There's not a lot knocking about at the moment, but yeah, I think that they're very nice to display those, because they don't look like you just dropped a vase on the floor. So a lot of the stuff I find requires an explanation as to why I'm keeping broken plates and pots in jars.
But I think this is probably the coolest examples of what to do with old things. And like, these are really old things. We're not just talking about something that we've inherited from our grandparents that are just sitting in our flats. This is like pretty or junk that we've collected. Like, I think mudlarking might be one of the coolest hobbies to discover old things and find value in them again.
Yes, it's very addictive, and value is quite elusive because it's not monetary value,
No.
of course. It's exercise. Getting out, going for a cycle and then a long walk is hugely valuable for your mental health.
Yeah.
I feel it teaches me a lot of discipline with attention to detail.
Good one. Yeah.
Perseverance. It really helps me. I don't know. I think it just gives me a little bit of a lift, because when I'm down there, I'm getting quite muddy. I don't want to touch my phone or anything like that when I'm down there. So I just focus and crack on and walk.
Yeah, and you're in nature and in the city that you really love, and like it puts maybe yourself into perspective amongst all these things that someone else has maybe considered trash because they threw it in the Thames, and that you consider treasure. And I think that's like really lovely if you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice thing to do, and I would recommend anyone doing it. Like I say, you do need to have a license, but anyone can go on the foreshore for a walk. It's just, I think if your intention is to take a couple of things away with you, you should have a license. But I would recommend anyone, whether they live in London or whether they're visiting, check the tide times, and if it's out, just have a little walk on the beach, and you see London from a whole other perspective as well. The skyline's very different down there. You can see lots where there were previously wharfs in days gone by that have been dismantled, all sorts of old wells, all kinds of things over the course of a walk, a mile or two across the beach there. And I feel it's a little bit of a community. I've started an Instagram for it. Of course, I'm very amateurish at the moment. I'm talking to you as if I know a lot. I don't know a lot at the moment. It's a voyage of discovery. I work. I can't do this every day.
Just like this podcast, so that's totally fine.
But there are some really, really good people online who are very knowledgeable, and they can really inspire you to go and look at for things. So hashtag mudlarking on Instagram is a great way of sort of getting into that and finding the possibilities. If you do want to follow me, you know what, I was thinking of maybe changing my name because it was a bit of a rushed thing when I was setting up my account. I'm Olden Days Lark on the gram. So it's Olden _Days _Lark, LARK. I think, remember in the early days of Hotmail when everyone had those addresses where it was cool _chick
underscore everything.
I've never really got away from the underscores, but yeah, so I'm Olden _Days _Lark, as if I was setting up a Hotmail address.
Well, now you can never change it. It's part of your brand. So
exactly, yeah.
You can't ever change
hashtag
it.
Crazy, yeah. Yeah, so
thanks, Emma. This was great chatting with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me talk about old things and getting that off my chest.
Yes. It was great. So to end the podcast, I'm going to list some famous people born on March 2nd, because there's actually so many famous people born on March 2nd. I'm only going to give you like really high level some people, or maybe they're just famous to me. I don't know. So we have Chris Martin from Coldplay. Good job. There's a couple musicians, some authors, Tom Wolfe, who did the electric Kool-Aid acid test. Pretty cool if you've ever read it. John Irving, who's like another famous Canadian American writer. He wrote like Cider House Rules, the good stuff.
And Prayer for Owen Meaning, right?
Mm-hmm. Lou Reed from the Velvet Underground, John Bon Jovi, and then Method Man. And then we have Daniel Craig, Rebel Wilson, and then this is specifically for Andrew only, Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And probably the most famous one is Dr. Seuss, and we especially like him because he has the best books and great quotes. So I'm going to read one of the quotes that I like, and is, "Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive that is youer than you."
I love that quote. And I also like that there's feet. You have feet in your brains in your head and feet in your shoes.
Yeah, you can steer yourself any direction you choose.
Exactly.
Or you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Mm-hmm. Slight sidebar is that we do acknowledge that Dr. Seuss had some very problematic racist leanings, as many historical figures did. But I didn't just want to ignore that, even though I do enjoy Dr. Seuss poetry. So we're hoping that this episode makes you think about your old things, love your old things, do things with your old things, appreciate your old things. But if that's not up your street and you want some other things to celebrate the beginning of March, we have some really good suggestions. So March 1st starts with plan a solo vacation day. And since, vaccines, etc., maybe you can actually take that planned vacation. That would be great. It is also
alone, obviously,
because social distancing, safety first. It's also
safety first.
Beer Day in Iceland. So cheers to all of our Icelandic listeners, of which there are many, I'm sure.
Shout out to my mom who downloaded Spotify just to listen to our podcast. So she's Mrs. H. Listeners.
You get the top marks for us. So it is also World Compliment Day. So you could spread a seed of happiness by spreading a compliment on the 1st of March.
Okay, on the spot, give me a compliment.
Your hair doesn't look too bad right now.
I like your sweater because I gave it to you.
just glowing compliments. We're so kind to each other.
Oh, we're so good at this.
One last day to celebrate is March the 3rd, and it is What If Dogs and Cats Had Opposable Thumbs Day. And I feel like that is just probably the most ridiculous possible holiday to celebrate. So I really hope you explore that philosophical thought experiment deeply in the coming days. And that's it.
These are the days, my friends, the hourglass and descends. Let's sing and dance and make a bunch of noise. So let the fun ensue and learn a thing or two. These are the days of